Welcome everybody back to the seventh edition, right? As many editions as there are months in the year, because it's a monthly LinkedIn Live event that is now a podcast. Search Legal AI Live on podcast apps on YouTube, legalailive.com. If you want to just get an email update when there's a new episode. If 1 hour is too long for you, then we publish those in 30-minute chunks, parts 1, parts 2 at legalailive.com. That's enough for the housekeeping. Also, Carolyn Elefant is just joining us too. And so with that, Dennis, I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Dennis Kennedy, and I'm the director of the Michigan State University Center for Law, Technology, and Innovation, and co-host for many years of the Kennedy Mile Report podcast. I will mention for the lawyers on the call that Matt's calculation of the number of months so far in the year is all the math we plan to do on this podcast. So the lawyers out there should be okay. So let's do some quick intros. Let's go with Kimberly.
All right. Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Kimberly Bennett. I'm CEO and co-founder of Fidu, the complete client experience platform to sell, deliver, and scale subscription and flat fee legal services. I am a lawyer by training, practiced for about 18 years, now turned tech co-founder. And so I have put my firm officially on hiatus as of July 1 of this year, so I can spend more time focusing on my platform. I still do have clients, but the love of subscription clients is that they're subscriptions, so no new ones are coming in the firm. So yeah, that's me. Hello.
And Greg.
Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Kochansky. I am the Vice President of Thought Leadership at the American Arbitration Association. And along with my colleague, Maya Markovich, we run the AAAI CDR Institute, which is kind of our internal think tank. I am a lawyer. I haven't practiced in a long time, used to be a securities litigator, but there's been a lot of different iterations in my career since then.
And Carolyn.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Elefant. I run a national energy practice out of Washington, D.C., and I'm also founder and publisher of myshingle.com, which is the longest running blog on solo and small firm practice. And these days, you can't be a solo or small firm without an alternative fee billing structure like a subscription model, but you also can't be one without incorporating AI into your practice. So for the past 2 years, I've really drilled down on AI, trying to get the word out to solo and small firms on how they can use it in their practice for real stuff, not just like drafting haikus and funny puns, but for real work.
And Matthew.
I'm Matthew Kurbis. I'm the subscription attorney. I serve as fractional general counsel to small business owners in Illinois. And I have a podcast dedicated to the topic of ditching the billable hour and leveraging the subscription model called Law Subscribed. And we talk about AI all the time, and I use AI in my practice every day and in my life for haikus style stuff.
So I like to start these out by doing what I did in my AI and law class at Michigan State, which is with a little thing I like to call, what did I try in AI? Because I like to learn what people are actually doing and what they found that works or, sometimes doesn't work. And I've been doing a lot in Perplexity lately, and we'll talk about that. And it's interesting to me because the premise of Perplexity, and I really like Perplexity, I don't really mean this as a criticism, even though it may sound like it, is that it's sort of positioned as a search engine and a search tool. And I think it's more useful than Google search at this point. But in my mind, it's really inconsistent, and it hallucinates in the sense that people use the word hallucinate quite a bit. And so it requires you to do some iteration and checking, which I think is a really good thing because it helps you learn the limits of AI and helps you see that the humans are in the loop. Now, the particular thing I've been using it for a lot lately is sometimes I have these repetitive workflows and I say, God, there must be a better way to do this. And I will just list out that actual workflow and say I'm copying and pasting things back and forth or whatever. And then I will put it into Perplexity or sometimes another tool, but usually Perplexity. And I say, I'm on a Mac. I would like to, are there apps? Are there other things, procedures I can use? And it will lay them out for me. This might help. This might not help. What about this? And then I just say, give me the step-by-step. And I work through the step-by-step. Sometimes I have to quiz it to say, I don't know what you meant here, or there actually isn't a drop-down that says what you said it did, and we'll get it worked out. And it's just been a really big benefit in helping me do some automations. Kimberly, how about you?
I think similar. I mean, I use AI every day. I'm a tech co-founder, so we build it into the platform, but also just in my day-to-day. I practically used it recently just because I was using, what is it? DaVinci. Is it DaVinci? What is it called? Dang, my brain, but whatever. A video platform. And I wanted to edit something. And I essentially was like, oh, I need to do something really quick. How do I do it? And I just asked it, I need to do this. How do I do it? And it gave me the directions of how to do it. Right. So I didn't have to go searching for it. It gave me step-by-step directions. I felt like that was really easy. So I think in your like day to day, how to use it, that's like, if I'm stuck on needing to do something, I don't want to go through an instruction manual. If it has the instructions, it'll tell me what to do. And if I'm like, hey, it's not there, you told me to do something that's actually not there, it'll go back. I'll say, you're right. This is what to do. But I think in the same way that in the day to day of using it, I'm a proponent of it being good for ideation, but not for like the final product, right? And that's kind of the perspective that I take. I literally was training, like, I don't know, I guess it was thousands of professionals across like the world a couple of days ago. And I was basically telling them, like, you're thinking about creating content, just don't let it be the final thing, right? Like ideate, don't put all your first ideas in there, but it can help you kickstart. It can help you move along a process. For the legal profession, I think, we can't be afraid of our clients coming to us with documents that were drafted as a first pass in AI. So what? People have a lot of bad first passes or decent first passes. So I think, there's a lot of opportunity, but not final work product is my end goal. But I think great to get you and to speed you up and to help you work through something that you don't know how to navigate a tech tool, particularly in this age of tech changing so fast. So those are some non-legal and maybe even some legal ways that I've been using it recently.
What about you, Greg?
So to your point about repetitive tasks, I find more and more that I reach the limits of what I can do in the web interfaces for like ChatGPT or any of these tools. And so I've been working a lot more directly with the API and doing some vibe coding to build out more complicated workflows. I had to review about 1,500 judicial opinions last week to kind of cull down to the most relevant ones. And it just wasn't a task that I could do in the browser. And so I built something to kind of summarize and curate that corpus. And it worked out pretty well. And I find myself doing that a lot more lately.
Carolyn, how about you?
I guess I used it for a smaller task. I'm always interested in seeing how these tools, how the general purpose tools stack up against tools designed for legal. So I used a combination of Gemini and Workspace, which is something I've been practicing on. And I had about 40 discovery documents in my file. And literally in under a minute, Gemini created a spreadsheet, a class name, it had the name of the document, what the content of the document was, and the date of the document. And I was shocked. I didn't think it could do that, but it did. And I did a quality control. I had my law clerk do a quality control check. And, for a brief summary like that, it's okay. I wouldn't, rely on those summaries to write a brief or anything, but I was just amazed. Now, but I'm really curious about what you just talked about, Greg, with 1,500 things. I don't know that Gemini and Workspace would work in 1,500 documents. So,
yeah, I imagine not. I assume that there are some tools where you can, upload a ton of stuff into a knowledge base and query it. But, if you really want to get granular and directly analyze all of those individual documents, it's helpful to be able to generate summaries at scale. And I think one of the design patterns with AI is that, it's much better when you break it down into smaller tasks and do a better job on each of those rather than overwhelming it with an end-to-end workflow. And so, I think that ends up requiring a little bit of, coding or something like that. Although I find myself doing this so much more now that I've actually been trying to build out using AI, a sort of node-based interface where I can take these different agents and kind of string them together so that I don't have to reinvent the wheel every time I have something like this to do.
How about you, Matthew?
Yeah, I'm still really leaning into my use of just Paxton, Perplexity, and NotebookLM. Just really trying to leverage these tools that I'm already using a lot and paying for. And like if an AI can't answer me based on sources and it could only answer me based on training data, I'm not using it. I just think they're not reliable. I don't care. And the only way I'm using those types of tools is if I'm providing it for sources first in that same chat. And like, that's not called retrieval augmented generation. It's called something else. I forget like the term of art in the AI space, like for what that's actually called, but that is called something. So I'm doing that just a little bit more sort of like inside of like a gamma.app, where like I have like a starting pitch or a starting deck or a starting something, and then using AI to create a more powerful slide deck. That's sort of where I'm using that, because that's not really based on anything other than what I give it. But that's where I really like Perplexity, is because to the extent it hallucinates or it has wrong information, that's because it's somewhere on the internet and it's wrong. Like, in my opinion, right? Like, the internet's a big place.
Exactly.
Right. So like, just really leaning into that. I've been using Notebook LM just a ton. I just really love that tool. And like, I'll be on like a live call. Like I'm starting a circle for the School of Moral Ambition. And we were just on a 3-hour training session today. Whew. But I'll tell you what, I put in all the program materials into Notebook LM notebook, and I was able to like ask questions against it and like use it as like an aid as we were going through the training. And it was just so super helpful, right? And because I have other notebooks of like my podcast history where I've given public speaking events, other materials that I have together, I'm able to like take those program materials, what I need to do to start a circle, and put it in against my other notebooks and just like create all the material in a second. And then I'm able to review it, and I make some changes and some tweaks, but they're so minor. Like, it's just getting better. Really, really can't say enough about Notebook LM.
Yeah, we're going to come back to Notebook LM because there's a lot going on there. But I want Carolyn to talk about the event that she did, our showcase, about what lawyers were actually doing, and talk about how that came about and what happened there and what impressed you there.
Thanks. So I was really grappling with how do we teach this subject that is constantly in flux, because this isn't even like when we had the cloud or social media, when you could put a slide deck together and it would generally be good for 6 months. Maybe you'd update it with an ethics decision. So I was trying to think, how can we do this? And my mind went back to the teach-ins of the 1960s, where people were teaching about different public policy and development in these informal spaces and sharing information. And so that's what it was modeled on. And so we got 22 lawyers to submit presentations, and there were more who didn't make the cut. There were probably like 35 that submitted in all. And they each did demos, either live 10 or 15-minute demos or a pre-recorded one on every type of use you could have. Matt generously did a presentation on Google LM notebooks. We had one person who testified on Gemini and GEMS, who also uses Fidoo and Clio, and talked about how she uses AI to tie those tools together with her AI use in Gemini. We had people talking about ChatGPT. There were people talking about legal research tools and site checking and avoid tools they had developed, like with out-of-the-box AI to do site checking. So all these lawyers were sharing information. I thought we went 5 hours, and I thought people would surely drop off. There were 200 people, even at the bitter end. Our last speaker was this attorney, Michael Romano, out of Oregon, who uses AI. He's a real power user for family law and criminal defense. And his talk was 25 minutes. He exceeded the 10-minute maximum. So I put him on at the end thinking I would cut him off at 10, but everybody was staying on the line and listening to him. So there was really a genuine excitement and curiosity about these tools. And I think there was something for everybody to share, to learn from. And then we had an AI judge the presentations based on the written transcript. And actually, Matt was one of the winners, although ChatGPT picked him, not Gemini. Gemini picked Mitch Jackson, and then Lenore Horton was our winner for Claude. She uses Copilot. She did a demonstration on agents in Copilot. So it was just really amazing to see how it kind of ignited a lot of people's curiosity. But like I said, I was shocked and stunned that people stayed on for 5 hours, because I was dragging. I mean, I was excited about it, but I was dragging at the end. It's just a lot of information overload. So I think going forward, we have to start thinking about how we get lawyers educated. And I think we have to change the paradigm that we use, because traditional CLE doesn't work. And even, annual demos don't work. It's not fast enough. We need something that's iterative. And I think this could be one model for it.
And, AI may be biased, but apparently not towards their own models when judging competitions.
So what was your reaction to the session, Matt?
Yeah. I mean, I thought it went great. And I really love the approach that Carolyn took, right? And I feel like as lawyers, like we are a little bit privileged to be able to do this, since we do have like an income from practicing law, where Carolyn gave it away for free to people who registered and signed up, right? And even like within a couple days afterwards, and it's a nominal fee, like to see the recordings. And And really, I think like that's a fantastic approach to something like this, where, those who care the most are going to show up too. And to know that like there's limited access for free in that way in the beginning, I think is a great way to incentivize lawyers to do it. Because really, we want to incentivize lawyers come to these things and learn about it and see about it. Right. So like really pleased with that approach. I will say keeping it to 10 minutes. I went back and watched a little bit of mine, Carolyn, to see how long I actually took it. I think I took actually 14 minutes. So my apologies. It's hard. 10 minutes is hard.
Yeah, but people weren't terribly over. I think the longest one we had besides Michael Romano was, 14 or 15 minutes, because I thought I was going to look at it and they were all going to be like 20 minutes, and they weren't. So I was surprised that people were able to be so compact. And the pre-recorded ones kind of saved us some time because people were pre-recording pretty strictly and probably doing takes and things like that.
Yeah.
Pre-recording is great on the timing thing. So what intrigues me about what you're doing is that when people talk about AI in general, lawyers talk about it, it's like legal research, it's about drafting documents. It's like the most boring things to me that AI is not that great at. But then when you see what people are doing, like really cool things, like the first time I heard Mitch Jackson talk about some of the things he was doing, as a trial lawyer, it was incredible, and so I think lawyers really need to see those things and go like, oh, wait, I could do that, which is why I like to start this with what did I try in AI, and why we're doing this is like, what are people actually doing where they see a benefit versus what are vendors telling them that they need to do, to help the vendors make more money, and I don't think the vendors always understand the nature of practice. So I don't know, Kimberly or Greg, any thoughts on Carolyn's approach? I don't know whether you saw it, but I think that teach-in notion is kind of interesting. It also plays on something that I've seen is, and lawyers kind of hate this too, is I think to really pick up what's going on in AI, you got to put some time into it. And it's say like, oh, I'm going to have a 50-minute CLE thing, and I'm going to walk out of there as an expert on AI is not a realistic expectation at all.
I'll say, I agree with it. I think our approach at FIDU is essentially to ongoing teaching. Like we literally do in office hours every single week or build with me every single week to help people implement. I think implementation has always been a roadblock in legal because it's like you want to go from 0 to 100 and that's just not the reality. And I think there's a lot of like soul dreams, whether it's in the tech space or in the whatever space, to say like, oh, this will change your life. Yeah, if you put in the work, right? If you do the baseline foundational pieces. So I think teaching and having that like real life approach to what people are doing and seeing it in practice and understanding that there are different ways of thinking, different ways of approaching, how we process differently. I think that's what it highlights, because a lot of things, even before I had the tech app and I was doing stuff where I would talk to people what I was doing, they would just get stuck in like the start, right? And like have no idea what the thing looks like. And I think seeing it and experiencing it like real time and forcing yourself to do it. And I think, that's why I think CLEs have been problematic for many years, because it doesn't actually, it's not real life. It's not, and I'm a Jersey attorney. And in the beginning, we had to do like practical CLEs. And that was like your first year. And then you like, once you were finished, or year, I think it was a year. And then you were done with CLEs forever. And then they changed it to go back to what everyone else is. Very boring. You sit and you listen. And I think like if bars can follow Carolyn's model, maybe it would move us much faster to help actually implement these things. And one other unrelated, I always come back to this thought about drafting and these tools. Are they bad or are we bad? Like, are we the bad drafters or are the tools the bad drafters? Because like a lot of people don't understand our documents. And so I wonder if like precedent has led us to these terrible legal documents that we think are drafted well, but are confusing as hell to everyone else. And maybe these tools are helping us get back to what a lot of like legal design professionals say: make it simple, make it clear, get out of the jargon. So it's just a random thought that I, wanted to.
Well, and that's one of the benefits for me of AI is that when I'm speaking or do anything for an audience, I go, here's the audience. What would they want to learn from this? Is it understandable to them? Like, make some recommendations for me. And I think it's highly valuable in that way. And I think it's, there was a recent case decision, one of these important, the important case of the day has been going on all year, but I think the trial court opinion was like 109 pages or something like that. I'm like, what is it about? Like, who is going to read that? What is there to say there? The trial court is like a yes or a no in a lot of ways. It's going to get kicked up. So what are they doing here? So now, Greg, your thoughts about the teach-in approach and maybe some of the things you're doing?
Oh yeah, that sounds absolutely terrific. And I would definitely sit through 5 hours of that and just, absolutely suck it up like a sponge. At the AAA, we're really big on information sharing and we use AI a lot. And I think that it's really important for leveling everyone up. And there's also kind of an experiential element to it as well. When we're using AI to do something, I will often put the prompt that I used in the, a footnote to my email just to show people what I was doing, or we'll do a screen share. And I kind of imagine, it's harder in legal services because of confidentiality issues, but I would just love to watch someone, be a fly on the wall while they were using some of these tools just to see how they were doing it in real time. And, there's so many opportunities to just learn new ways of thinking and new ways of doing things with AI.
Yeah, I write this monthly column on Law Department Innovation, and for a long time, I've ended it with a sample prompt for somebody to implement the ideas from the column. And people tell me that's like one of their favorite things about it. I would love to know what they're actually getting out of it, but they tell me they like that. So I think that's one way to share, because a lot of people will be testing AI or making conclusions about it. And my initial thought is like, what are the prompts? What's the sequence? Like that will help me understand what's going on. So Matthew, I'm going to turn to you because you are like the pioneer, the expert, the go-to person on NotebookLM. And I think when lawyers especially, but anybody asks me about what should they start using with AI, I go NotebookLM. I mean, NotebookLM right now is doing the stuff that we only dreamed of 2.5 years ago, with this sort of personalized, personally trained RAG, as they call it, the retrieval augmented. But Matt, could you introduce people to NotebookLM and then maybe talk about some of the things that you're doing?
Yeah. I mean, it's notebooklm.google.com. And if you have a Gmail account, you have access to it. And now if you're a lawyer, I don't recommend you just use that free account, because there might be some, like you can, but don't put client information into it yet, right? Even in the free accounts, I've seen it say something along the lines of your data is yours, it's private to you. But when you have a business standard account or one of their AI subscriptions, then it says like you have the enterprise, agreements where your data is secure, we're not training anything on it, and all those, disclaimers that I think it's important to read. So like the question then becomes the legal ethics of it all. No legal ethics advice given, just educational information. Is like, at least I think I can reasonably rely on those representations from Google that this is a safe place for me as a paying customer to put in, confidential information and query against it. Right now, I also, I get express consent from my clients when I'm using AI, but like part of the reason they hire me is because I'm efficient, more affordable than I'm using AI, right? So much so that my small business clients are now leveraging NotebookLM, right? And like in their business, they're putting in their HR documents so that when they onboard a new person, that new person who has the same, domain, at whatever.com, businessname.com, they could query against the HR stuff, the HR docs, right? And get like an audio overview, or say, or like if it's training materials, hey, this thing happened, what am I supposed to do, right? And so like they're really able to leverage it in that way. So if you're a law firm owner and you have staff or other attorneys or people who work for you, like you start using it in that way. Like don't even use it for the substantive legal work. Just use it to like streamline all those processes. And if you are billing by the hour, and you shouldn't be, but if you are, now you don't have to be pulled away from billable work where they could just query against the sources that you've provided in NotebookLM, right? So like you could start using it in all different kinds of ways. And if everybody learns differently. So you can, type to it like you can all the other AI chatbots, or you have the audio summaries where you just passively listen, or you can have a conversation with those sources and actually talk and ask questions of it. And those two AI hosts that are very conversational, the male, female sounding voices, they'll talk back to you and actually have a conversation with you about it. And that's really impressive and really useful for people who learn that way. It's not natural. Like NotebookLM is a long way to go to make the product actually better. Like, I can't just connect my Google Drive? Like, why can't I just connect my Google Drive? Like, that would be great. Please, can I connect my Google Drive? So, like, a long way to go with certain things. But right now, up to 300 sources is more than enough for me. And you could hack it by putting everything in one Google Doc and uploading a Google Doc, and that's one source, right?
Could you talk a little bit about, just describe what Notebook looks like, what the experience is for people who haven't tried it?
That ends part 1 of this month's Legal AI Live. Make sure to subscribe to the Legal AI Live podcast at legalailive.com to catch part 2. You could also subscribe to our new YouTube channel, or on any podcast app, just search Legal AI Live, and follow the Legal AI Live page on LinkedIn. See you next episode.